So whenever you're ready. But Al, can you do that from the? Yeah. Well, I don't know how to do it.
Want to give a minute for Mr. Meinzer?
Oh, here he is. Yep, he's walking in. Hi.
Hey, Mr. Meinzer.
Mike.
All right, I think everybody's here. They indicated they were going to be here. So could you call this meeting to order, please? Or I'll call this meeting to order. Could you do roll call, please?
Yep, Mr. Whaley,
Here.
Mr. Meinzer,
Here.
Mr. Schultz,
Here.
Mr.
Here.
Miss Andell. Here. And Mr. Griffiths is not here.
All right. Before we get into the September minutes, I wanted to give a chance to welcome Ms. Yandel to this meeting. And I was wondering, we'll go around and introduce ourselves as well, but if you could just give yourself a quick introduction, a little bit about your history, I think would be great. Where you came from and your experiences and how you can help out this commission.
Oh, boy. Well, I'm a new resident of Sandusky 3-ish years ago, from Seattle. And my background is I'm a contractor, steel studs and drywall, high-end commercial repair, restoration in the Seattle area. So I've moved my company here, but we don't do that. We only work for ourselves and our, whatever I do. I don't bid work out. There should be no conflict of interest or anything like that, working with the city. I'm knowledgeable with plans, engineering, projects, permitting, means and methods, scheduling. I don't know. I'm very much interested in Sandusky. That's why I picked to move here, the history of it. And I own some very old houses in Sandusky all over. So, I don't know, any more than that? Yep.
Just everybody kind of hear you. You know me, I'm Ryan Whaley. I have a few businesses downtown. Maybe you could just introduce yourself quickly.
I'm Rob Truca. I'm a staff architect for Jacobs Wiper, which is based in Philadelphia. We do work on 6 continents, and we have a couple other offices. I'm a carpenter and by trade, and yeah.
And I'm Lou Schultz, and I'm a member of the Erie County Historical Society Board and of the Maritime Museum Board, and I'm retired and longtime Sanduskian, so.
And I'm Mike Meinzer. I'm the current city commissioner.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Okay. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from the last September 19th meeting? Did anybody have any questions? If not, I need a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Second, right? Those are approved. So the reason for this meeting tonight is an application for multiple items for 220 East Water Street. And the way we're going to handle this, we're going to have staff available, and there's going to be a spokesman that would like to come up here for any questions about that project. Mr. Fyke, yes. Okay. I tell you what, just one of you wouldn't mind coming up. Ryan, maybe you could, just because I know that you're kind of project manager. And then, John, if you, you're welcome to chime in. We're going to let staff, and we're going to move by this line by line. We're going to do windows, we're going to do doors, we're going to do everything a step at a time, so we're not doing it all at once.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah, you come on up.
Apologize, it's my first time doing the meeting, so.
Don't worry, I'm still very nervous. It's all good.
All right, so when I was gathering myself earlier, I was trying to summarize some of this as best as possible, so I'd like to apologize if this gets a little lengthy, but this is, there's a lot of relevant information that I need to go through, so.
Alec, could you speak more into the mic?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
I just said there's a lot of relevant information on this report that I'd like to get through, so my apologies if this is a little lengthy, but yeah, I couldn't summarize it at all because this is all needed information. So I'll get started. The building we're talking about today is 220 East Water Street. We're going to go over windows, doors, patio, and also signage. And then Mr. Tamburino's at the podium here. So this is a contributing building in the downtown Sandusky Historic District and also in the National Register. It's known as the Engels and Crudwig Building. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And the portion relevant to this application was originally constructed in 1934. It's listed as National Historic Places in 1976 as a contributing building in the Water Street Historic Buildings District and is also included in the Downtown Sandusky Commercial Historic District, which was added to the register in 2017, as we know. So the National Register requirement states as followed, or this is kind of the description of the property based on the National Register. It's a two-story plain stone style building built with native blue limestone. The face of the 1934 section of the building has tall, light windows. 2 pilasters of stone divide the window bays. Only minimal alterations have occurred, and they do not diminish the simple elegance of this building. It retains historic integrity. So the main occupant of the building / the owner uses it for storage currently, and the application for certificate of appropriateness contains a wide range of items to restore and renovate the building. The plans included some interior details as well, but for the Landmark Commission, that exterior change is the only thing that is important. So we're going to start with the windows. The applicant wishes to replace old broken windows with new aluminum sashed insulated time period like windows with similar mullion pattern as original windows with black frame and black mullions. So staff noted, based on the application and based on the structure itself, the headers and footers of the windows are failing, and the picture to the right here, if you could see the top of the window frames are in fact starting to bow and collapse into the window itself. The rest of the building, which is considered 224 East Water Street, has already been brought current times with aluminum sashed insulated windows, which is similar to what's being proposed for this portion of the building. The windows on the 1885 and 1990 elevations were previously replaced with those windows, and they were also steel originals. And then the original windows of 1934 section of the building do not match the same style. I just wanted to make that noted. They're not proposing to replace these windows with building on the other part of the winery, because based on the historic description, these windows have been different historically. So based on the Sandusky design guidelines, any replacement should duplicate the appearance of the existing windows as closely as possible in number of panes, thickness of muntins, thickness of sash sides and rails, profiles and details, and framing members, if these two must be replaced. And then the national requirements for the windows: deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature. The new feature shall match the old feature in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features shall be substantiated by documentary, physical, or pictorial evidence. And it's also noted that corrosion, principally rusting in the case of steel windows, is a controlling factor in window repair itself. If the rusting is merely a surface accumulation or flaking, then the corrosion is considered light. If the rusting has penetrated the metal, indicated by a bubbling texture, but has not caused any structural damage, then the corrosion is medium. If the rust has penetrated deep into the metal, the corrosion is heavy. Heavy corrosion generally results in some sort of structural damage through delamination to the metal section, which must then be patched or sliced. In addition to corrosion, the condition of paint and presence of bowing or misalignment of metal sections, the amount of glass needing replacement, and the condition of the masonry or concrete surroundings must be assessed in the evaluation process. These are the key factors in determining whether or not the windows can be repaired in place. So it's another staff note as we feel that these are heavily corroded and would suffice being completely replaced. Because the windows are noticeably bowed and deteriorated, causing structural stress, and based on these guidelines, this heavy corrosion, we would recommend replacement over rehabilitation. So we recommend certificate of appropriateness on this.
All right, any questions, any comments, thoughts on this?
Documentation's pretty clear.
Do we have any samples of the actual mullions of the windows?
Don't at this time. If that's something that needs to be a requirement, can absolutely be. We were going to match the pattern. John Fike, who is the owner of the building as well, is also our architect, who is navigating that window replacement with the glass guys in Sandusky.
Ryan, so one of my concerns is, you mentioned, I believe there are windows on the east side of the building. So, and maybe I missed it, the attempt is to match those?
So the windows on the same side of the Water Street side.
Okay.
So on the 224 address, which is the continuation of the building front, have already been replaced, which what John has done with the aluminum sash. It's kind of a burgundy color. A lot of those are actually single pane, not even mullion. But we were going to replace with similar, match that style, which is already current on the front of the building. It's the exact same side of the building, which is the north side of the building, but just continuing down the street.
Okay.
It's just this portion, which is the 220, which is the remaining 50 feet of the building, has not done the windows yet.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
as long as the size and dimensions of the windows and placement do not change, I don't see any problem with the mullions in it. It looks like the lintels or the headers, as you call them, are bowed and maybe are structurally starting to deteriorate. So I think that's a great idea with the windows.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that, I live near that building, so I walk by it all the time, and those current windows are rough, and I definitely can see that heavy corrosion. I like the idea that it's gonna be, complementing the rest of the building as well. So I don't know if there's any other comments from anybody, but if there's not, let's go ahead and if we could get a motion.
I move that we accept the proposal.
I'll second. And we need a vote?
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Commissioner Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Truca?
Yes.
Ms. Sandell?
Yes.
Okay, and then next we are on to the door, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
So the applicant wishes to replace a dilapidated front single wooden door with an extended double glass door entrance to comply with current fire and code regulations. There's a staff note from code and fire, building and fire, that the front wooden door currently is not wide enough to satisfy fire safety needs and code, it's under minimum width for code. So they would like to allow for more accessible, increased foot traffic in and out of the building for the current build and for future additional expansions within the building. Speaking with the applicant, they do have future intentions of adding a second story and also possible basement addition to the building. So the extra door width would, be for that increased traffic volume. They also want to grow more visibility from the street into the space because there is limited window and access around the building, which as a result will accentuate more natural light into the space. The new door opening is designed to take cues from the existing exterior facade, limiting alteration to the building. So based on the Sandusky Preservation Design Guidelines, entrances and doors, to consider the architectural style of the building when considering entrance doors, avoid heavily carved ornate doors on simple buildings. The same is true of large ornamental hardware such as doorknobs, locks, and hinges. And then for the national standards for doors, New additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing size scale and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. So staff notes, it's unknown if the wooden door that's there is original, but it seems to match the postcard picture I had found. It's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like at least the entranceway, not the door itself, matches. So to the best of our ability, we don't know if it's original or not, so it's hard to tell. Staff recommends the granting certificate of appropriateness with the following conditions: that the proposed door stone cutting does not exceed the width in between the stone pillars, which is what's currently proposed. If extended, the applicant must reapply with exact details of work needed on the pillars. Our main concern is that it is mentioned on the historical or the National Historic site that those pillars are a very complementary historic feature of the building, so altering those at all, we feel is not recommended unless a further analysis is done. And then the contractor must follow the masonry guidelines on pages 14 through 15 of the Sandusky Preservation Design Guidelines for any of the work done.
Well, I know we're going through this one at a time, and it's great that Mr. Fike is your architect, because he's more knowledgeable and better architect than I could ever hope to be. But my concern is that with this door and going to the signage above the door, one, the signage goes above and starts to encroach on that window. And I would need to see, I'd like to see a section of that to see how the water is going to drain, because I'm looking at that and that's just going to pool up water and can further erode the building. Also, with the width of that door, and like in the original picture where that original lintel is there, and I hope this business goes well, I'm all for the business, I want to come down and enjoy it. But if that signage ever changes, what's that actually going to look like behind there? Is that going to be another lintel, right? So looking down the future for the future of the building 100 years from now, when that sign is no longer there possibly, I want to know what that looks like. I mean, that's really important. So if the width of the door really is, on this plan here, 7'2", right? Fire emergency egress is the name of the game. I'm all for that, right? You guys are in a tough spot there. So regardless of any future building, a new door needs to be put there. I would definitely agree that you can't cut into anything past that.
Sure. May I make a comment?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the original, the wooden frame which is missing, which is kind of shown in that red square, actually does encroach on that window already currently from what was taken down. So it would be matching about the level of encroachment on that window with the new sign. So in terms of how far it went up that window is about the same match. It's not covering half the window versus no window. So that we tried to match. In terms of how we secure it to the building in terms of water runoff, that would be a question that I have for between my contractor and who's fabricating the sign. I'm not sure how that water would pool. That's not an answer I have for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on all that. Generally, the architect is going to draw that detail, right? And the contractor is going to build it.
Can you bring up a photo of the door again? Is that what it looks like currently, Ryan?
Right now, today, yes.
So,
I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
okay, so I guess so the sign, and I know unfortunately we're talking about the sign after, which is after the door, but that's okay because it's obviously a big part of it. What you're saying is the sign is going to go potentially above the new door, cover that existing brick there, and then kind of encroach in the window a bit?
Correct. Cover up the deteriorated brick that has been covered by the frame of the old door, to cover that up, plus a little bit more, just because it is a square sign versus an angled sign, which was the wood. And And then it is not attached to the door, it is a separate entity from the door. It's not that we are taking a bigger opening for the door plus the sign. It is the sign on the front of the facade, kind of as if the old sign that was under the winery sign that had the old monk on it, that is down today, that was attached with lag bolts that are cut off today. It'd be more of a similar manner as that, where it's floating off the front of the facade for the sign.
So, I think I'm getting to the right answer here. So I'm assuming that sign's just gonna simply be attached to that old brick, and if it ever comes down, that's basically what we're doing.
Correct, that's what you would see today, which is how it is right now today.
So there'll be a gap between the top of the sign and the window?
Again, that's a little bit farther down the detail in terms of how I know it. From what I understand, it is floating in front of the window. I don't know how they intend to seal it in terms of where the water passes.
Just wondered if it'd be a pond in there, so.
That would be something that I have to understand from Brady Signs, which they gave me their quote, but it doesn't detail where the water would pool, so.
That I'm trying to help, like.
Yeah,
I'm all
no.
for this, that's the most important detail. That's,
Yeah.
the water.
Sure.
And how that gets out of that space is,
Makes complete sense.
yeah.
So I guess my feeling is that, I think how we've been, the door, the fact that it's need for an egress, really, you must not exceed the width in between those stone pillars. I think that is probably one of the most important things about this piece. And certainly follow those guidelines. I think other than that, I feel okay with the door, but I think we're gonna have a bigger discussion a little bit when we get to the sign. Does anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, even with the door, and I'm pro-door, I'd like to see a detail of how it meets that limestone, what the return is, how it's caulked. And the only reason why is because I do this for a living. I do it all day long for my clients, right? And so the details matter. And this is frontage. It's your business. So some people don't care about these types of things. Some people do. I'm one of the people who do. And so whenever I go to a new establishment or I walk in any building, I'm just looking exterior, interior, how all those joints meet. And so, of course, I'm going to vote yes for a door, but I really do care about how that door meets that limestone on one of the most important buildings in Sandusky. So, and how all that connects, how that's attached to that front, and how it plays in with the drainage and the wind. To me, it's all the same thing. I know we're voting on it separately, but to me, it's all just the same thing because it all has to work together, right?
Absolutely.
So, I'm pro for all of this. I'm not really sold on this elevation at the top of this sign being, and this drawing says it's 2 scale, and it's 2'10", and it's right below what looks to be the second mullion. Am I seeing that right? No, okay. So it is going to go a little bit higher, as is shown in this drawing, and on the left there, than the deterioration of the wood.
Ryan, do you know any of the materials that are going to be used?
So for
Do you have that information?
the door itself,
Yeah, so maybe we-
from the glass guys, the product materials is an aluminum entrance shall be narrow style, 2-inch nominal as manufactured by Ramco. Reliable architectural metals company. Door and frames sections shall be extruded aluminum alloy, weather stripping to be silicone treated plastic pile. All glazing materials should be elastonomic glazing gaskets. That was provided by the glass guys today.
Can you decode that for us?
Standard jargon. That's why my first question was, did you have a sample, right? Because if we can't see it, and really this is on you. Like, I'm new to the commission here, but just to help have intelligent conversations when we're talking about details.
Absolutely.
And manufacturers are happy that you just send an email, a rep will get this back to you real quick, right? Because that's how they make a living. So generally, just even working with the city moving forward, when we have like this applicant package, when these types of things come up, we really, just to be fair to people coming up here, need to say, if we're want to have an intelligent conversation about details,
What I
let's get some
wonder,
of those materials
Too,
in our hands.
Ryan, in terms of the height of the sign, which, covers part of the window, what I wonder is the sign to the upper left of the door, I wonder, in other words, if you had to slightly reduce the size of that, could the information you need to share with the public not be conveyed by that other sign? You see what I'm getting at?
I might be actually confused by,
You
what,
see,
are you
there's a,
referring to
there's
the
a,
wineries?
there's
The sign that says the winery?
there's a perpendicular sign,
Oh, the blade sign that comes away from the
yeah,
sign?
that says clubhouse number, whatever.
Yep, number 3,
Sports
yep.
social. So if you had to crimp the one sign slightly, would that be a big issue?
I think that would be a very good compromise. I mean, we're trying to capture with the blade sign, the down the street
Yeah.
traffic. We are trying
Yeah.
to go from the Columbus Ave side down towards
Yeah.
Water Street.
I mean, I just wondered if that might be a way to resolve that issue, Rob?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to jump on that next. I would just advise, just from a design standpoint, I don't think you need necessarily for marketing, branding, frontage to duplicate both of those signs. It actually would probably be more visually appealing if that front sign above the door was sleeker, more of a ribbon. Because right now, it doesn't work. It looks clunky, it looks like an alien just jumped onto the building. It looks like a parasite. It's not working with any of the other scale of the building, of the width of the door, the columns, right? It just looks completely out of place. I agree, if it matched the width of, can we go back a photo there to where the old, right there. So on the image on the right, if you made that sign the exact height of that current lintel right there above the wooden door, in the same length, just shrink it down. Maybe, obviously you might have to take out clubhouse or NO3, but just, I don't think that would necessarily hurt your branding.
My only worry with that branding is that, so the blade sign captures side to side. When you're standing in front of it, as the picture in the middle denotes, I can't see that branding whatsoever. So that the branding on the sign above the door is more for the people that are in front of the building, that are driving in front of the building. I can't cut clubhouse. Our full name is Clubhouse number 3, and then there's a modifier that is the
Ryan.
Sports Social.
You're just recommending to shrink it to make it more of a ribbon.
Yeah.
And it matched the height of the.
Of the lintel, right there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would help, that would take out the water issue of it pooling, right? Because then it can just go off onto the limestone.
And Ryan, if you look at it, it would just be a matter of redesign slightly. You could still work sports social in, and maybe clubhouse, or maybe put club, Klaus or something. I think you can convey, I know what you're saying. You have to convey the brand to the street. It's a minor compromise. I
Sure.
don't think you lose anything.
I think our original design just came from the height of how high the wood came before.
Yes.
He matched that.
Yes, you need that.
I'm 100%, again, conversational. If we need to scale it back, if that's what works, the
Yeah.
ribbon sign that fits that lintel, we can go back and we can rework
You lose
that.
about, what do you lose about? How many inches? You lose, instead of overlapping that bottom pane, I think you're okay.
I just have to go remeasure it and just make sure we're not downsizing it by 75%,
No.
That's all.
I mean-
I understand I just want to look at the size and understand how much it is to downsize, but
Absolutely.
I'm 100% with that compromise,
Okay.
so.
I think because we've moved into kind of talking about the sign, the
third,
door, at the
Yeah.
same time, that's gonna have to be one vote, because I don't wanna say, hey, Ryan, we got the door for you, but we
Sure.
got a sign to come back to the sign. So I'd like to continue the discussion, if there's anything else on the sign and the door as one piece. Because, we could confuse things, say yes to the door, no to the sign, or vice versa, and then you got nothing.
Yeah, and I'm pro door, pro sign, I'm pro business.
We can rework the sign to make that lentil width, if that's
I don't like
what
the
we're talking
door.
about.
I don't either.
It's
I
too
just wait
modern.
to speak,
It's a commercial storefront.
Mr.
I
Chairman.
think you can do something better.
Right.
Isn't that the same door foot that's on this building?
Hey, guys, and I know I try to run it like a little bit more laid back, but if we all start talking to each other, then we're gonna have to go back to the old, hey, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
hey, talk, blah, blah.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would say that, one, as a commissioner, I'm excited about the development. If I was on Ecadec, I'd be excited about development. If I was on planning, I'd be excited about the development. However, our duty here is to keep up with the defining characteristics of the building. And this building is blue limestone, as Alex mentioned, and it's got the greatest doors downtown. So to throw a couple of structural, architectural aluminum doors in, like at a mattress firm or Verizon, do not meet, to me, anything to do with the building and the doors that are existing. I just think that they stand out and they detract from the other, unless that's the purpose. And if that's the purpose, we shouldn't really be talking about this at this commission. So.
I mean, our purpose of the doors were to mesh with what has currently been proceeding downtown and it has been installed downtown, whether it be this building or whether it be, J. Bistro Stein. We've been trying to match the progressiveness of what's gone on downtown in these historic buildings. We're not trying to pick a door that's making you upset. That's not the point. It was tried to match what has been installed in the past couple of years.
I agree. Mr. Chairman, got a couple more minutes. I do agree that's happening, but if you read what our duties are and you go to, I'm just going to say Texas Roadhouse or Red Lobster, they're going to have more architecturally interesting doors than these modern, trendy, that's an anodized aluminum door with some fancy hardware from Modern Hardware, and it's just the trend is to have a matte black finish. So I don't see how it fits in architecturally with that building.
Thanks, Mr. Meinzer. My thought on that door is, really if we go back to the interior standards and treatment of historic properties, it does say new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. And of course, there's where we get into the issue. And then it says, new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with massing the size and scale. But the new construction should also has to apply with the fire code, and that's the thing that issues. As I'd love to see a big wooden door in the front of the building, boy, that'd be cool. Fire code is more important. We also have a lot of buildings downtown that have the example that Ryan's speaking of. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about, well, we certainly talk about the door if you want more, but I also think we should talk about the potential of approving, if we were to make an approval, the sign, the blade sign in the door. But then I would want another, you guys to come back with that other sign, because I don't want that to get out of control, or we might do something bigger than we'd approve.
That's fair.
Anybody have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree.
So we're doing the sign and door together?
Yes.
Okay. May I speak about the sign?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Chairman? I don't have any problem with sign. I think a sign, signs come and go, and I don't think it's going to alter the building. I think it looks nice, but the door is an alteration and does look kind of trendy to me.
Thanks, Mr. Meinzer. Mr. Fike, did you have something?
The door that's there is 1975. That's not an original door. That when they started using the business, because it's been closed since 1959, the old door was removed, and actually that's a door that my dad made down in the shop and brought back in and stuck in, and all it is cedar over a piece of plywood. It's been sitting there since 75, the last 15 years, I don't think, other than us coming and going, it's not been opened. And this round around it was all stuff that was added. What was there was just a big opening, and it was a door that set way back. I can't even tell you what the old door looked like. The door at the other end of the building, which goes into our office, is aluminum. It's a standard aluminum door, glass.
Right.
So
Just the other end.
this double door would match that single door is basically what it would be.
Thanks, Mr. Fike. Unless there are any other comments, I vote that we approve the door and the blade sign. That's the motion that I would like to make.
I would second it.
Okay. Can we get a vote, please?
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Commissioner Meinzer?
No.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Truca?
This is for the blade,
The blade and the door,
blade and the door.
not the sign on the flat sign we discussed.
really, I'd like to see, if we're gonna look at some cross sections of the door, and if some of the other commissioners aren't happy with the door, there has to be a double door, right? That's not in dispute. That's gotta happen. Could we just see some other options for the doors? I mean, and I'm not, so I'm sensitive to, I don't want you to have to go back, pay your architect, pay the signage people, right, and delay this project. But after listening to Commissioner Meisner, kind of, you know, I want to see some more options. In the design process, you come to the table generally with different options instead of just swinging for let's like hope this one. And then I think you're open-minded because you're open to compromise. You've already said that, and I believe we are too. But and I can see Mr. Fike's standpoint of it matches the door on the left, but to get a consensus here, it'd be nice to see some other door options. And if this is going to be entirely greenlit because of the other signage, then let's address the door and the signage and come back at the same time.
My one concern is, and I understand what you and Mike are saying, is we're trying to make a viable business out of a building that right now is, except for by and large offices, is not being utilized. And I just, the thing about the glass door, and I understand the objections, is it's more welcoming than, I mean, when you think of it, that's a solid wooden door. It's more like a barricade. You know, it's, do I really want to go in there? If I have the glass, it seems to me I'm more apt, I feel more welcome to the building. Does that make any sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I was just coming from the
Point of
material
order,
instead of
Mr.
the
Chairman.
anodized.
We already have a motion on the table. The discussion is
Okay.
over. We can come back,
Yeah.
table it, or have a discussion at the next meeting.
I'll vote yes on the door.
Ms. Sandell?
No.
And that's everybody.
So that is without,
So that was 3 votes for and 2 against.
so that was, is that, do we have enough for a quorum? Are we okay? That I don't know. Without Alan here, I'm not sure that, unless it's a unanimous, that it's,
If I may,
is that Brendan?
Chair, yes.
Thanks, sir.
I believe, and I'm double checking it right now, but because the landmark ordinance is not, sorry, I'm trying to pull it up right now. I believe you need 4, is what I'm about to say.
Okay. So before that fails, let's move on to the patio.
So did they get an opportunity though to come back, right?
Well, absolutely, of course.
So
My recommendation would be that you come back with the examples.
So could I?
Not like hard
Sorry.
examples, but like photos.
So just for my lack of knowledge with presenting this meeting, when you mean come back, is that file a new motion for November, which means come back for December?
Yep. Well, I don't know the schedule, but you would want to, you'd be back here again. And Mike, I can hear you.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say, I agree with Rob, but the fire code is important, and double doors are important, panic hardware is important. I mean, that, and the light in the building is all important, but I still feel like there could be some architectural dynamic to this door that would match those round doors on top are the coolest things downtown, those done next to it, you know. Something that you could bring that character out. I don't know if you can. If you can't, you can't. Then we'll have to figure it out.
Again, compromise, I'm open to suggestions if the Landmark Commission has a suggestion to how they should look versus how they shouldn't look. My debate is just the 2-month delay, how that process works in terms of submitting for the door and getting the door.
You'd have to, the way it went tonight, you have to submit.
Okay.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
If I was to present this, I would have said this is my first choice and here's my second. to just show one thing, you're just, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe reasoning why you can't do something else. Maybe different colors. I mean, I don't know the reason why you specifically picked this, and then you just got the information on what the door is today. Makes me feel like this is kind of a rush, and just because the city's been doing it for the last however many years, the same doors, doesn't mean it would look best there. And it, just some different ideas.
Sure.
I mean, I've seen some pretty cool new
Yeah.
storefront doors that look like they belong
All right,
better.
well, and we've already voted, so we do need to move on to the next thing.
But I was just trying to get an idea of, you know, what is acceptable here, because this is the door that you've been approving for every old building in downtown to date, to all of a sudden come to this one saying, hey, we're not giving you that anymore. I don't understand the reasoning.
Right, I think it's unfortunate that it failed. I agree with you, but unfortunately, this is voting, this is, you know, this is the way it has to proceed, so the next step is gonna be able to.
That being said, I don't know what to bring you.
I think you need to bring examples, more than just that example. I think that's you know, we have to bring another example, and that's what this group seems to wanna see. They wanna see more than one door. There's a good chance that this door probably will be fine, but that's what this group wants to see, so that's the way we have to do it.
When's our next scheduled meeting?
We have one next month.
Correct.
And I'm pretty sure everybody's here.
Yep.
Next meeting is November 7th. November 17th.
17.
Would we be able to see them on the 17th instead of making them wait until December?
I'm sorry, what?
That's what I was thinking.
So the
Can we,
deadline would
can we
technically be
see, can we
today.
get them back in here in November instead of making them wait and lose all that time and not, see them before December? So see them on November 17th.
That's the question I had, because
Yeah.
the deadlines where they align is that the deadline's before the meeting. So
Yeah.
for me to get a no, I can't submit tomorrow.
Yeah,
So I agree with that in terms of questioning.
If the commission's okay with that, I think we can, given the circumstances, allow an application tomorrow. Brendan can chime in as well if that triggers any.
Can we get these guys to resubmit that with the examples that this group is looking for as soon as possible?
Yeah, I would suggest maybe making a motion. So the reason the motion failed, even though there were 3 votes, was, which is a majority of the 5, is that there's a 7-member body and we don't have 4. And so if you want to make a motion to allow them to come back to the next meeting, I think that's completely appropriate.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to allow these guys to come back for the next meeting. So they can
Second.
come back with what this group needs. So there's a second for me?
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Commissioner Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Truca?
Yes.
Ms. Yandell?
Yes.
Okay, and before we move on to the next, the one thing I would like you to do is feel free to email me or anybody in this group or any of these guys and say, I know this is what they want, and we'll be glad to spend time with you.
Sure.
So that you know what else, because, when we come to the table, we don't discuss a lot of these things outside of this group.
Oh, understood.
We can't do that. We have to do it here in public. So it's best to say, hey, what do you want? And this guy knows a lot. Kima has a good background, so it's good to, and then that way when you come, we're all going, okay, this makes sense. All right.
It does, and I spent the past month and a half going back and forth with planning or, setting up the presentation, and that just really wasn't alluded to, that I needed that many options.
Yeah.
So I apologize, but I understand.
Well, we know what you're gonna do, and I think that you're doing a great job. But it is, the more information we have, the merrier, and hopefully too much information, so that we can make informed decisions.
Understood.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
May I speak? I think it looks great. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I think you did a great job, and it's just like our duty when you read the parameters that we could, like, to me, it's like defining character, that just doesn't fit in my head, so I got to be sold, I guess. It's like, I don't think it looks bad. It's just, it's the Landmark Commission, and even if it should exist, I don't know, but if we have it, we have these parameters we got to fit it into, and that's just the way I looked at it.
Great, thanks, Mike. Staff, are you guys ready to move on to the next thing?
I'm ready if you are.
All right.
Okay, so on to the patio. The applicant wishes to construct a non-permanent metal and cable wiring system to create an outdoor lounging space for guests. Currently, that address does not have any outdoor space available for guests to step outside and enjoy the views of downtown Sandusky. An encroachment permit would be filed with the city for the proposed railing system. An outdoor dining patio would be installed on a seasonal basis. It would get dismantled and stored inside during the winter. So these items are all in line with the standards in the preservation design guidelines of Sandusky. And based on those guidelines, staff recommends granting a certificate of appropriateness with the following conditions: that the patio is removed seasonally. There hasn't been talk on what that definition of seasonally is, so maybe here in the commission we could put a definition to what that would be, but that's our recommendation.
And when we say dining, we are not going to serve food within our establishment. It's not tables and chairs. It is more stools and a rail to enjoy the downtown. It's more of a sightseeing escapade than it is a dining experience. We are going to allow food in from other restaurants downtown for them to bring, and then we're going to provide the beverages and the entertainment downtown. So less of a sit-down restaurant experience.
Okay, so I guess I have a question, and maybe staff can answer this. I'm having a hard time seeing the size of the deck, or the patio.
31 feet by
Is that 4'6"?
4
Yeah, 4'6".
5 inches.
That is correct.
Now, do we have rules within, like, do we have within the city a certain rules for encroachment and how much space we can take?
Staff was not aware if there are any. I kind of used the last precedent of HD Tony's, Hot Dog Tony's, as this one, as a guiding tool to get to this point. So if there are any, staff was
Of course,
unaware.
that's on Shoreline Drive, which is just reconstructed, so it's a little different than Water Street.
Right.
Which is old.
From what I had researched, it was that there needed to be, I believe it was a 5-foot distance outside of the railing for walkable space before the street, which currently that block is the only block with a grass patch on it. Now, whether or not we would have to concrete in a little bit of that grass to provide walkable space would be up to the city to understand that. But there would still be an additional of upwards of 5 feet from our railing to the street for walkable space.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Meyer.
I think as long as to me, I mean, the planning commission may have a different idea, but I think as long as it's handicap accessible, you can push a 36-inch wheelbarrows, wheelchairs down the road, and I think it's a nice asset to the building and to the business, I'm sure, so I'll probably vote for this.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I believe the sizing of it is part of the next process.
Okay.
You know,
Okay, so that's what I
the
was.
permitting process.
It's a
Sorry for-
preemptive.
Okay.
Yes, sorry for that
I
miss.
just want to make sure we weren't,
Yeah.
last thing we want to do is accidentally block out the sidewalk. That's bad news.
But that's not our decision, right?
Okay.
So, and-
Right.
and
Yeah,
the
so
fact-
you guys want to be approving the size or the scale, I believe. It's more of like, is this appropriate, like, use for the sidewalk?
And the alley is not an option?
Unfortunately, that is not our land. That is an encroachment from the next building over from Mr. Fike.
Okay.
Which, if we rented space from him, that'd be different, but they use that alleyway as a delivery space back to the CrossFit business that is in the back. That is why Mock Route only has half of that alleyway. That was kind of a thought as well, but that is not our space to use.
Okay. Is that going to be, smoking going to be allowed in that space?
I can't necessarily stop that. I mean, if that's a thing from the city, I mean, it's an outdoor space that's kind of providing that patio.
It's actually illegal to smoke within.
Oh,
I think it's 35 or 40 feet, it's a state reg, so
Okay.
that's.
thank you. I apologize for not picking
I
that
don't
up.
think it's
I can
followed,
answer that.
that's the.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think this looks good, and,
It's not a permanent structure either.
Yeah, it's-
I think
Go.
that we would want to set since it's not a permanent structure, I think we do want to set a date on it. My thought is it's saying warmer later, so I kind of feel like it's end of November and then probably early March, so I don't think it would be able to be out quite a bit. Does anybody else have any opinions on that? Snow removal is something you have to think about, though. And that is your responsibility to remove not only snow in the patio, but outside the patio. I know that's not our job to tell you that, but
Oh.
I'm just telling you what I know, because I don't like removing
We decided to
snow.
bring this to you. Yeah, decided to bring this to you to make sure that there was no,
So-
anything with that, so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this from March 1st to November 31st for a temporary patio outside.
Second.
Vote please.
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Commissioner Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Truca?
Yes.
Ms. Yandel?
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Mr. Chairman, staff does have a conclusion recommendation. So as long as all applicable permits are obtained through the building department, engineering department, and other, planning department, excuse me, and other applicable agency prior to construction, we would also like to mention that as a condition for any of these that have passed.
Okay. And looks like we're on to staff reports.
Give me 1 second here. Which one's on the agenda first? 165 or?
Yep.
Okay, so we have 165 East Jackson Street. I'm sorry, I think I misplaced the previous address for this one, but, so this is part of the application that was approved last time. It was a illuminated sign for One Digital, so this is their non-illuminated monument signs that staff approved. So that was approved, the digital illuminated sign was approved, not digital, just illuminated, was approved on September 29th of 2021. So the applicant wishes to place 2 new non-illuminated signs to the south and east of the property at 165 Jackson. And the current code requires only 1 monument sign on this property, but since the signs are being replaced with identical signs, they are therefore permitted. Staff determined the sign complies with the Sandusky Preservation Design Guidelines. They feel it's good quality design, simple graphics, and simple messages. The shape's appropriate, colors are not fluorescent. The background is white, but since it's replacing the existing white background signage, we feel it's also appropriate. So staff granted administrative approval on September 30th, 2021. And then we had a window sign for Fleet Capital. This is downtown 126 Columbus Avenue. Excuse me. The applicant wishes to place 1 window sign at the property at 126 Columbus. The zoning code does not require zoning or building clearance for a window sign. It's just that window signs shall not exceed 25% of the window area, which this sign meets. Staff determined that it complies with the previously stated design guidelines, which is simple quality design, simple graphics, simple message. The shape's appropriate, the colors are not fluorescent. And that, in this case, the background is not white, and this was granted on October 13th, 2021.
Does anybody on this, have any questions about any of this stuff?
Mr. Chairman, it just goes along with the lighting and the lumens and everything's all compatible with the things we've been approving and no complaints, right?
Yeah, so these 2 monument signs are non-illuminated.
Oh, okay.
And if it is illuminated, I don't think there's lighting on these monuments, but if it is, it's what's existing currently. They're not going to replace any new or add any new lighting to any of them.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, and does this, I don't remember, does this need a vote?
I don't believe so, but it's our duty to at least present
Yeah.
what we've been
I
doing.
just make a motion that we approve the staff's recommendation to approve these signs.
So,
Second.
may I interject, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Bennett.
I believe the administrative approvals do not need a vote. I believe it's informational is
Okay.
what we are providing.
Well, then we will have no vote on it.
Thank you.
But I need information. I need that information. Does anybody have any other business? This went a little longer than I was expecting for a special meeting tonight, so I don't think we need to get into that. But if anybody does have anything?
No.
No.
Sounds good to me.
I move we adjourn.
Second?
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Brian.
Nice meeting you. Brief.
Sorry, guys, I really care about water drainage.
What's that? Talking about what they, so all of those guys were.